The Medal of Honor hit the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot. The distinctive blue ribbon with white stars tore free from Jack Morrison's worn jacket, and the bronze star suspended on it skittered across the polished floor of Le Bernardin, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. Every conversation stopped. Every fork froze halfway to mouths. Every eye in the room locked onto the gleaming medal spinning slowly to a stop at the feet of Marcus Wellington, the restaurant's general manager. Marcus stared down at the medal, his face going pale, because even he, in all his pompous ignorance, knew what he was looking at. The Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration awarded by the United States government, given only for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty. There were only 71 living recipients, and Marcus had just physically thrown one of them out onto the street. "Oh, God," Marcus whispered. The man he had grabbed by the collar and shoved toward the exit, the man he had called a homeless vagrant and a disgrace, the man whose appearance he had mocked in front of a dining room full of Manhattan's elite, was standing at the entrance, dirt on his face, wearing torn jeans and a faded army jacket that had seen better days. But now everyone could see what Marcus had missed. The man stood like a soldier, shoulders back, head high, eyes that had seen things most people couldn't imagine. "That's a Medal of Honor," someone whispered from table 12. And in the back corner booth, a man in an expensive suit stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. He was in his 60s, with steel-grey hair and the bearing of someone who had commanded thousands. General Robert Hayes, retired, former commander of Joint Special Operations Command, and he was staring at the man in the doorway like he'd seen a ghost. "Jack?" General Hayes said, his voice carrying across the silent restaurant. "Jack Morrison?" The man in the doorway looked up. His face was weathered, lined with scars both visible and invisible. His beard was unkempt. His clothes were dirty. But his eyes were clear and sharp. "Evening, General," Jack said quietly. "Let me tell you how we got here." 30 minutes earlier, Jack Morrison had been walking through Manhattan's Upper East Side, trying to find a place that would let him use the bathroom. He'd been on the streets for 3 weeks now, ever since the VA had screwed up his housing voucher and he'd lost his apartment. It was temporary, he kept telling himself, just until the bureaucracy sorted itself out. But in the meantime, he was sleeping in shelters when he could get a bed, and under bridges when he couldn't. The Medal of Honor was tucked inside his jacket. He kept it there always, close to his heart. Not because he was proud of it, though he supposed he was in a complicated way, but because it was the last physical connection he had to the men who had died so he could earn it. Afghanistan, 2011, Firebase Keating. Jack had been a staff sergeant then, leading a squad of 12 men. They'd been overrun by 300 Taliban fighters in a coordinated assault. Jack had held a position for 6 hours, firing until his barrel melted, carrying wounded men to safety, calling in air support, refusing to abandon his post even when ordered to retreat. When the smoke cleared, 9 of his men were dead. Jack had 17 bullet wounds and burns over 40% of his body. And he had killed 63 enemy combatants, saving the lives of the 3 men who survived. The Medal of Honor had been presented to him by the president. Jack barely remembered the ceremony. He'd been heavily medicated for the pain and drowning in survivor's guilt that no medal could ease. Now, 13 years later, Jack was walking past Le Bernardin when his stomach cramped painfully. He hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Half a sandwich someone had thrown away. He looked at the restaurant. It was the kind of place where people spent more on one meal than Jack's monthly disability check. But they had to have a bathroom. Public accommodation law said they had to let him use it. Jack pushed through the heavy doors. The blast of warm air and the smell of expensive food hit him like a physical force. The maitre d', a thin man with slicked back hair and a condescending smile, looked up from his podium. His smile died instantly when he saw Jack. "I'm sorry, we're fully booked," the maitre d' said, even though there were empty tables visible behind him. I just need to use the restroom, Jack said quietly. Our facilities are for customers only. The law says, I don't care what the law says, the maitre d' interrupted. You need to leave. Now. Jack felt the familiar anger rising. The same anger that had gotten him kicked out of 3 VA hospitals and 2 shelters. The anger that came from being treated like garbage when you'd given everything for your country. I'm a veteran, Jack said, keeping his voice level. I just need to use the bathroom, and then I'll go. I'm calling security, the maitre d' said, reaching for his phone. That's when Marcus Wellington emerged from the dining room. Marcus was 42, with perfect hair, a perfect suit, and a perfect contempt for anyone he deemed beneath him. He took one look at Jack, and his expression curdled. What's the problem, Pierre? Marcus asked. This person is refusing to leave, Pierre said. Marcus walked up to Jack, standing too close, invading his space. Let me make this very clear. This is a 5-star establishment. We serve senators, celebrities, and business leaders. We do not serve homeless people. Leave now, or I will have you forcibly removed. I'm not asking for food, Jack said, his jaw tight. I'm asking to use the bathroom. And I'm telling you no. You're making our customers uncomfortable. Look at yourself. You're filthy. You smell. You're a disgrace. Jack's hands curled into fists. In his mind, he was back in Afghanistan, holding the line, refusing to break, refusing to let them make him feel small. I'm a decorated veteran, Jack said, his voice low and dangerous. I've earned the right to be treated with basic human dignity. I don't care if you're George Washington, Marcus sneered. You're not welcome here. Now get out before I call the police and have you arrested for trespassing. You're making a mistake, Jack said. The only mistake here is you thinking you belong in a place like this, Marcus shot back. Then he grabbed Jack by the collar of his jacket. Several diners gasped. An elderly woman at table 6 covered her mouth. But no one intervened. Marcus physically dragged Jack toward the door. Jack didn't resist. He'd learned a long time ago that fighting back only made things worse. That homeless veterans who got into altercations ended up in jail, not getting justice. But as Marcus shoved him toward the exit, Jack's jacket caught on the door handle. There was a ripping sound, and the Medal of Honor, which had been pinned inside his jacket for safekeeping, tore free and fell. It hit the marble floor with that distinctive metallic ring, and everything stopped. Marcus stared at the medal. Pierre stared at the medal. Every single person in the dining room stared at the medal. Because you didn't see a Medal of Honor every day. Most people went their whole lives without seeing one in person. And now one was lying on the floor of Le Bernardin, dropped by the homeless vagrant their general manager had just assaulted. That's not real, Marcus said, but his voice was shaky. Has to be fake. Jack bent down slowly and picked up the medal. The ribbon was torn, but the medal itself was intact. He held it in his palm, feeling its familiar weight. It's real, Jack said quietly. But you wouldn't know the difference, would you? That's when General Hayes stood up. The general had been dining with his wife, celebrating their anniversary. He'd been trying to enjoy his retirement, trying to leave the war behind. But when he saw that Medal of Honor, every instinct in him snapped to attention. Jack Morrison, General Hayes said again, walking across the dining room. His wife followed, confused but trusting. Is that really you? Jack looked up and recognition flickered in his eyes. General Hayes, didn't expect to see you here, sir. I didn't expect to see you looking like... Hayes trailed off, his expression shifting from shock to concern. What happened, Jack? Where's your detail, your support team? VA screwed up my housing voucher, Jack said with a bitter smile. Been on the streets for 3 weeks. Bureaucracy. You know how it is. Hayes's face darkened. He turned to Marcus, who had gone very, very pale. You, Hayes said, his voice dropping into the command tone that had once directed covert operations across 4 continents. You just assaulted a Medal of Honor recipient. Do you have any idea what you've done? I didn't know, Marcus stammered. He looked like what? Hayes demanded. Like a homeless veteran? Because that's what he is. A veteran who served his country with extraordinary valor. A man who saved lives while you were probably in college, learning how to be a pretentious ass. The dining room erupted in whispers. Phones came out. People were already filming. "General, it's fine," Jack said tiredly. "I'm used to it." "It's not fine," Hayes said firmly. He turned to address the entire restaurant. "This man is Staff Sergeant Jack Morrison. In 2011, at Firebase Keating in Afghanistan, he single-handedly held off 300 Taliban fighters for 6 hours. He saved the lives of his surviving squad members. He killed 63 enemy combatants while suffering 17 gunshot wounds. He received the Medal of Honor from the President of the United States." Hayes's voice grew louder. "And tonight, he was assaulted and thrown out of this restaurant because he looked homeless, because he needed to use a bathroom, because people like him," Hayes gestured at Marcus, "can't see past appearances to recognize a hero when he's standing right in front of them." The silence in the restaurant was deafening. Marcus looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. Pierre had disappeared entirely. "I'm going to make a phone call," General Hayes said, "and by tomorrow morning, this restaurant's health rating, its liquor license, and its reputation are going to be very thoroughly reviewed, unless—" Hayes looked at Marcus. "You do the right thing, right now." What do you want?" Marcus whispered. "First, apologize to Staff Sergeant Morrison. On your knees." Marcus hesitated. "Now," Hayes barked. Marcus dropped to his knees on the marble floor. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm sorry." "Second," Hayes continued, "you're going to seat the staff sergeant at the best table in this restaurant. You're going to serve him whatever he wants. On the house. And you're going to do it with the same respect you'd show any other customer. More, actually, because he's earned it." "Of course," Marcus said quickly. "Anything." "And third, you're going to make a donation of $50,000 to the Wounded Warrior Project. Tonight. I'll wait for the receipt." Marcus looked like he might cry, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." "Get up," Hayes said with disgust. "You're embarrassing yourself. If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us create more content like this. Thank you." Jack was seated at table 1, the best table in the house, with a view of the entire dining room. General Hayes sat across from him. Hayes's wife, Margaret, a kind woman with silver hair, sat beside her husband, looking at Jack with motherly concern. "When did you last eat?" Margaret asked gently. Jack started to lie, then stopped. "Yesterday morning." Margaret's expression crumpled. She immediately flagged down a waiter. "Bring bread and soup, now, not the amuse-bouche actual food. Quickly." The waiter, a young man who had watched the entire scene unfold, nodded and rushed to the kitchen. "Jack," General Hayes said, leaning forward, "why didn't you call me? You have my number. I told every one of my men they could reach out if they needed anything." "Didn't want to be a burden, sir," Jack said quietly. "We're not in the military anymore, Jack. You can call me Robert, and you're not a burden. You're a hero. You're my friend. And I'm furious with myself that I didn't know you were struggling. It's not your fault, General. I mean, Robert, the system's broken. Always has been." "Then we fix it," Hayes said firmly. "Starting tonight. Margaret and I have a foundation. We help veterans with housing, medical care, employment. We should have found you sooner, but we're finding you now." Tears stung Jack's eyes. He blinked them back. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's what you're owed. You gave everything for this country. The least we can do is make sure you have a roof over your head and food in your stomach." The soup arrived. French onion, rich and steaming. Jack's hands shook as he picked up the spoon. Margaret looked away, giving him privacy to eat without being watched. But General Hayes kept his eyes on Jack, his expression a mix of pride and sorrow. As Jack ate, Marcus approached the table nervously. "Sir, I've made the donation. $50,000 to Wounded Warrior Project. Here's the receipt." He held out a printed confirmation. Hayes took it without looking at Marcus. Good, now leave us alone. But Jack looked up. Wait, Marcus, sit down. Marcus looked confused. Sir, sit down. I want to tell you a story. Marcus sat, looking terrified. Jack set down his spoon. He'd finished the soup in less than 2 minutes. In Afghanistan, we had a saying. Everyone looks the same covered in dust. Rich, poor, black, white, educated, uneducated, didn't matter. We all bled red. We all fought together. We all died together. Jack looked directly at Marcus. You looked at me and saw a homeless man. Probably thought I was lazy, or crazy, or an addict. You didn't see a person. You didn't ask my story. You just decided I didn't belong in your restaurant. I'm sorry, Marcus said, and he actually sounded like he meant it. Sorry's easy. Change is hard. I don't want your apology. I want you to remember this moment. The next time someone walks into your restaurant looking rough, looking homeless, looking different, I want you to remember that you don't know their story. Maybe they're a veteran. Maybe they're running from abuse. Maybe they just lost their job. Maybe they're having the worst day of their life. Jack's voice was steady. You have power here. You decide who gets treated with dignity and who gets thrown out. Use that power better. Marcus nodded, his eyes wet. I will. I promise. I will. Good. Now get back to work. Marcus stood, hesitated, then said, Sir, if you ever need anything at all, this restaurant, my home, whatever I have, it's yours. Jack just nodded. Marcus walked away. General Hayes smiled. You're better than me. I would have let him grovel. He's not the enemy, Robert. He's just ignorant. And ignorance can be fixed with education. Spoken like a true leader. They talked for hours about Afghanistan, about the men they'd lost, about the weight of survival, about the struggles of coming home to a country that thanked you for your service, but didn't really want to deal with the aftermath. Margaret ordered course after course. Jack protested, but she insisted. You're eating. End of discussion. You're a growing boy. Jack laughed for the first time in weeks. Around them, the other diners had returned to their meals, but Jack could feel eyes on him. Some looked at him with respect, others with pity. Some were still filming. By tomorrow, this would be all over social media. I need to tell you something, Jack said suddenly. What is it? Hayes asked. I own this building. Hayes blinked. What? Jack smiled slightly. My grandfather bought this property in 1952, back when this neighborhood was nothing. He passed it to my father, who passed it to me. I rent it out. The restaurant pays me $30,000 a month. Hayes stared at Jack, then burst out laughing. You're telling me that Marcus just threw his landlord out onto the street? Technically, yes. That's the best thing I've heard all year. Does he know? Not yet. I was going to tell him after I used the bathroom, but he didn't give me the chance. Hayes was laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes. Oh, Jack, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. I don't usually tell people. Don't want special treatment. Just wanted to be anonymous. But after tonight... Jack shrugged. Guess that's not an option anymore. So you're not actually homeless? My apartment lease ended when the VA screwed up. I've been staying in shelters while I looked for a new place. Didn't want to dip into savings. But I have money. I'm not rich, but I'm not destitute. Then why didn't you just check into a hotel? Because the men I served with, the ones who made it home, a lot of them are actually homeless, actually struggling. If I use my privilege to escape the system, I can't fix the system. I needed to see it from the inside, understand what they go through. Hayes shook his head in wonder. You're something else, Jack Morrison. I'm just tired, Robert. Tired of veterans being treated like garbage. Tired of the system failing us. Tired of people like Marcus looking down on us. So what are you going to do about it? Jack thought for a moment. I'm going to turn this building into a veterans center. Housing, medical care, job training, mental health services, everything in one place. No more bureaucracy. No more runaround. Just help. That's ambitious. I have the building. I have rental income from other properties my grandfather left me. I have the Medal of Honor, which opens doors. And now, thanks to tonight, I'll have publicity. We can make this happen. General Hayes extended his hand. Count me in. My foundation will match whatever you put in. They shook on it. At the end of the night, as Jack prepared to leave, Marcus approached one more time. Sir, I've prepared a room for you. Upstairs, we have guest quarters. Please, stay tonight. Let me at least do this. Jack looked at him. Saw genuine remorse. Okay, thank you. Marcus led him upstairs to a beautiful room with a view of the city. There was a bathroom with a deep tub, clean clothes laid out on the bed. If you need anything, Marcus said, anything at all, please call. When Marcus left, Jack locked the door and stood at the window, looking out at Manhattan. In his reflection, he could see the dirt on his face, the weariness in his eyes. But he could also see something else. Purpose. He ran a bath. As he sank into the hot water, he felt muscles he didn't know were tense finally relax. He thought about the men he'd lost, the men who would never take a hot bath again, never see Manhattan, never get a second chance. This is for you, Jack whispered. All of this. I'm going to fix it. For all of us. The Medal of Honor sat on the bathroom counter, the ribbon still torn. Tomorrow, Jack would get it repaired. But tonight, he'd just let himself rest. Because tomorrow, the real work began. Building something that mattered. Creating a place where veterans were treated with dignity. Where no one had to sleep on the streets. Where service meant something more than a handshake and a thank you. The man who had been thrown out of a restaurant for looking homeless was about to change the system that had failed him, and thousands like him. Sometimes you have to hit the floor before you can rise. And Jack Morrison had hit the floor plenty of times. Now he was getting back up, and he was bringing everyone else with him. If you enjoyed this story of justice and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that how we treat our veterans matters. Comment below. What would you have done in Marcus's position? Thanks for watching, and remember, everyone has a story. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone. 6 months later, the transformation was complete. The building that housed Le Bernardin had been completely renovated. The restaurant still operated on the ground floor, but the 5 floors above it had been converted into the Morrison Veterans Center. There were 40 studio apartments for transitional housing, a medical clinic staffed by VA doctors who actually cared, a mental health center with therapists who specialized in PTSD and trauma, a job training facility with partnerships with major corporations, and a community space where veterans could gather, share meals, and know they weren't alone. Jack stood in the lobby on opening day, wearing a suit that Margaret Hayes had insisted on buying him. His beard was trimmed, his hair was cut. He looked like the man he used to be, before the war, before the streets. But his eyes still carried the weight of everything he'd seen. General Hayes stood beside him, along with Margaret and a dozen other veterans who had helped make this happen. Marcus Wellington was there too, looking nervous but determined. "Thank you all for coming," Jack said to the crowd of reporters, donors, and veterans who had gathered. 6 months ago, I was thrown out of this building for looking homeless. Tonight, I'm standing here as the owner of a facility that will ensure no veteran in New York ever has to sleep on the streets again. The crowd applauded. Cameras flashed. This center is named in honor of the 9 men I lost at Firebase Keating. Their names are on that wall. Jack pointed to a memorial wall in the lobby, engraved with 9 names in bronze. They died so others could live. This center exists so that their sacrifice continues to mean something, so that every veteran who comes home has a place to belong. Jack's voice grew stronger. We fail our veterans every day in this country. We send them to war. We ask them to kill and die for us. And then we abandon them when they come home broken. We let them sleep on streets. We let them struggle with PTSD alone. We let them become statistics instead of treating them like the heroes they are. This center is our attempt to change that. Every veteran who walks through these doors will be treated with dignity and respect. They will be given housing, medical care, mental health support, job training, and most importantly, community. They will never be turned away. They will never be judged. They will never be made to feel less than they are. The crowd erupted in applause again. Jack waited for it to die down. I want to thank General Hayes and his foundation for matching my investment. I want to thank the dozens of volunteers who helped renovate this building. I want to thank the doctors and therapists who agreed to work here for less pay than they could get elsewhere, because they believe in this mission. Jack paused. And I want to thank Marcus Wellington. Marcus looked up, surprised. Marcus made a mistake 6 months ago. He judged me based on my appearance. He treated me terribly. But when he realized what he'd done, he didn't just apologize. He changed. He's been volunteering at veteran organizations ever since. He's been learning about the struggles we face. And he's committed to ensuring that Le Bernardin becomes a partner in this mission, donating a percentage of profits and providing job training for veterans who want to work in hospitality. Jack extended his hand to Marcus. Everyone deserves a second chance. Even people who throw Medal of Honor recipients out onto the street. The crowd laughed. Marcus shook Jack's hand, tears in his eyes. Thank you for teaching me to be better, Marcus said. Thank you for actually trying to learn, Jack replied. The ceremony continued. The first residents moved into their apartments. Veterans who had been sleeping in shelters or on the streets now had their own space, their own bed, their own bathroom, safety, dignity, home. One of them was Danny Rodriguez, a Marine Corps veteran who had served 3 tours in Iraq. Danny had been homeless for 5 years, struggling with PTSD and a brain injury from an IED blast. He stood in his new studio apartment, looking around with tears streaming down his face. I can't believe this is mine, Danny whispered. It's yours, Jack said, standing in the doorway. For as long as you need it. No time limit, no judgment. Just work with our counselors, follow the rules, and this is your home. Danny turned to Jack. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. I know enough. You served. You sacrificed. You came home to a country that didn't take care of you. That ends now. For you and for everyone else who walks through those doors. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just pay it forward. When you get back on your feet, help the next guy. That's how we fix this. Together. Danny nodded, wiping his eyes. Jack left him to settle in and made his way through the building, checking on other residents, greeting staff, ensuring everything was running smoothly. In the medical clinic, he found Dr. Sarah Chen, a VA physician who had quit her job at a traditional VA hospital to work here. How's it going, Doc? Jack asked. Better than expected, Dr. Chen replied. I've seen 12 patients today. No red tape, no endless forms, no bureaucracy, just medicine, just care. This is what the VA should be. That's the idea. Cut through the nonsense and actually help people. You know you're going to have a fight on your hands, right? The VA doesn't like competition. They're going to push back. Let them, Jack said. I've got the Medal of Honor, a building full of motivated veterans, and the best general in the Army backing me. They can push all they want. Dr. Chen smiled. You're not Staff Sergeant Morrison anymore, are you? You're Commander Morrison now. I'm just Jack, and I'm just trying to fix a broken system one veteran at a time. That night, after all the ceremonies and press conferences and tours were done, Jack sat alone in his own apartment on the top floor of the building. It was modest, no bigger than the studio apartments below. He didn't need luxury. He just needed peace. His phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. Hello? Is this Jack Morrison? A woman's voice asked. Yes. Who's this? My name is Janet Parker. I'm a producer for 60 Minutes. We'd like to do a segment on the Morrison Veterans Center. Your story has gone viral, and we think it could help bring attention to the veteran homelessness crisis. Jack sighed. He didn't want to be famous, didn't want attention. He just wanted to help. I'll do it if you agree to feature other veterans too, not just me. Show their stories, show what they've been through. Make it about them, not about me. We can do that. Then okay, set it up. Over the next few months, the Morrison Veterans Center became a model for the country. The 60-minute segment aired and was watched by 20 million people. Donations poured in. Other cities started reaching out, asking Jack to help them build similar facilities. Jack traveled the country, speaking at veteran events, meeting with politicians, pushing for systemic change. He testified before Congress about the failures of the VA system. He met with the president and didn't pull any punches about what needed to change. And slowly, things started to shift. New legislation was passed. Funding increased. Red tape was cut. It wasn't perfect. The system was still broken in 1,000 ways. But it was better. And Jack Morrison, the man who had been thrown out of a restaurant for looking homeless, had become one of the most influential advocates for veterans in America. 1 year after the opening, Jack stood at the memorial wall in the lobby, looking at the 9 names of his fallen brothers. "We did it," he whispered. "We're making it better. Wish you were here to see it." He felt a hand on his shoulder. "General Hayes, they'd be proud of you, Jack. They'd be proud of all of us. This isn't my victory. It's ours. Every veteran who's helped, every donor who's contributed, every volunteer who's given their time. We're all in this together. That's what makes you a true leader. You don't take credit, you share it." Jack turned to face the general. "I couldn't have done this without you, Robert. You believed in me when I was literally covered in dirt on a restaurant floor. I always believed in you. Even when you were a sergeant in Afghanistan, I knew you were special. The Medal of Honor just confirmed it." They stood in comfortable silence, 2 soldiers who had seen war and come home to fight a different kind of battle. "What's next?" Hayes asked. "We expand. I've got investors interested in funding centers in Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Philadelphia. We're going to create a network, a nationwide system where every veteran has access to the support they need." Ambitious. We owe them nothing less. As Jack walked through the center that night, checking on residents, chatting with staff, he passed by the small office that Marcus Wellington had set up for his volunteer work. Marcus was there, late as always, reviewing job applications from veterans who wanted to work at Le Bernardin. "Still here, Marcus?" Jack asked. Marcus looked up, smiling tiredly. "Just finishing up. We've got 3 new hires starting next week. All veterans, all excited to have a fresh start. You're a good man, Marcus. I know I was hard on you at first. I deserved it. I was awful. But you gave me a chance to be better, and I'm trying to earn it every day." "You already have." Jack continued his rounds. He found Danny Rodriguez in the community room, playing chess with another resident. Danny had been sober for 11 months. He'd been working with a therapist on his PTSD. He'd reconnected with his family. He was applying to college, wanting to become a counselor so he could help other veterans. "Evening, Danny. How are you doing?" Jack asked. "Living the dream, Jack. Literally. This place saved my life." "You saved your own life. We just gave you the tools." "Same difference." Danny grinned. "Hey, I wanted to tell you. I got accepted to Columbia, social work program. I start in the fall." Jack felt pride swell in his chest. "That's incredible, Danny. I'm so proud of you. Couldn't have done it without this place, without you. You would have found a way. You're a Marine. You don't quit. Neither do you." That night, as Jack finally made it back to his apartment, he stood at the window looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, veterans were still struggling, still homeless, still fighting battles that no one else could see. But there were fewer of them tonight than there had been a year ago. And tomorrow there would be even fewer. Because the Morrison Veterans Center was just the beginning. Jack picked up his Medal of Honor from where it sat on his desk. The ribbon had been repaired, good as new. He ran his thumb over the bronze star. "We're not done yet," he said to the medal, to the memory of his fallen brothers, to himself. "Not even close. because Jack Morrison had learned something important. That night, he was thrown out of Le Bernardin. He'd learned that hitting rock bottom could be the beginning of something extraordinary. He'd learned that shame could be transformed into purpose. He'd learned that one person, with enough determination and the right support, could actually change the system. And most importantly, he'd learned that the fight for his brothers didn't end when he came home from war. It was just beginning. The end. Thank you for watching this story of resilience, redemption, and the power of second chances. If you're a veteran struggling, please know that you're not alone. The number for the Veterans Crisis Line is 988. Press 1. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you can, consider donating to organizations that help homeless veterans. Every dollar makes a difference. Comment below. How do you think we can better support our veterans? Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.